These, addictive. Good morning, beautiful foodies. It is Saturday, it's the weekend. I'm so happy. I just love the weekend, and I love it when it's nice and sunshiny out. Sunshiny, is that a word? I don't know. Anyways, the sunshine is really nice right now, and I'm just loving it. It is freezing cold though. This weekend I decided to do something a little bit different for you all. I am going to be filming a what I eat in a weekend video as opposed to what I eat in a day. So grab whatever snack you want and join me for this what I eat in a weekend. Let's jump right into it. So for breakfast this morning, we ended up going over to my in-laws' house. And we had this type of bean stew with some homemade flatbread. I was honestly super full after that filling breakfast, so I decided to skip lunch and simply make a little snack. So I cut up an apple with some banana and made myself a fruit bowl. I find fruit bowls so easy to make, and they keep me full for such a long period that it's totally worth it to have in the afternoon while you're kind of waiting for dinner to be made. So then I just simply drizzled some almond butter on top of my fruit, and I have to say that I love drizzling any kind of nut butter on top of fruit. It just makes them that much more enjoyable. Honestly, that creaminess is just to die for. Then I just simply sprinkled some cinnamon on top of my apple because I love putting cinnamon on everything. And of course, some chia seeds on top of my banana. Bananas, some apples with like cinnamon on top, some almond butter drizzled on top of that, and some chia seeds. So good! And on that note, I'm gonna take a bite of this apple. So good. I'm gonna go finish this entire bowl, and then we're gonna make dinner. These crackers are everything. They're so addictive. They are a sesame-based cracker, and I just love them so much. I think there's actually more than just sesame seeds in this. Brown rice, sesame seeds, quinoa, and flax seeds. Everything that I like packed in one little cracker. Later that day, I was honestly ready for dinner and I was craving an everything plate, so I just simply chopped up some zucchini along with some cauliflower and added them to a oven-safe dish. As you can see, I'm kind of trying to mix the zucchini and the cauliflower together so that when I add all my spices and my olive oil, they kind of apply evenly on all the different little pieces of vegetable. So I went ahead and drizzled everything with lots of olive oil. I love my olive oil, so I always like to kind of overdo it here, especially when it comes to roasting vegetables. Then I started seasoning these veggies with some salt, black pepper, some garlic powder, paprika, cayenne, and red chili flakes along with some oregano. And then I simply just gave everything a really good mix, making sure that all of my spices and olive oil were well incorporated into every single piece of those lovely vegetables. Once I was satisfied with how well my veggies looked, I then threw these bad boys in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 35 to 40 minutes. So I love topping my veggies off with some kind of dressing or sauce or whatever, so I decided to make a tahini dressing for my veggies. I simply started by roasting some garlic cloves and grating them into a small bowl. I then decided that I needed some acidity in this dressing, so I cut up a lemon and simply squeezed half of that lemon into that same bowl. A little olive oil never hurt anyone, so I figured, hey, let's add some olive oil into this dressing. I feel like it would add a certain flavor to it and maybe even enhance the sesame. I don't know. So anyways, then I went ahead and added quite a few tablespoons of tahini, and I just realized now, like, why am I buying such small jars of tahini when I use this quite often? Like, I think I'm gonna probably look into larger jars of tahini from now on. But anyways, this tahini dressing was an incredible nightmare to make. It was absolutely delicious at the end, don't get me wrong, but it was so annoying to make. But after adding a bunch of ice cold water, some more lemon juice, and some extra spices, I actually ended up reaching a pretty decent consistency, and it ended up tasting phenomenal. To accompany my delicious roasted vegetables, I decided to boil some brown and red rice. And then I simply added my roasted vegetables onto one side of my plate and the rice onto the other. Then I simply drizzled lots of tahini dressing all over my delicious food. This turned out amazing. I mentioned before that the consistency ended up being just perfect after I added a bunch of ice cold water, some more lemon juice, and a few spices. It ended up being so creamy and just honestly flavorful and perfect. I decided I wasn't quite done yet with this plate. I kind of wanted some more like saltiness, acidity, something a little extra on my plate. So I decided to add a few capers on top of my veggies and rice. And then I simply topped everything off with some red kraut. This honestly gave the plate so much flavor and a little bit of acidity that it really needed. And that was it in terms of food on Saturday. I definitely had a lot to eat. I was extremely hungry that day, so I definitely made sure to feed my body a lot of healthy nutrients. And then, of course, I ended my day with a nice warm cup of peppermint tea. Sunday morning, I woke up and I was totally in the mood for both a coffee and a hot chocolate, so I decided to make myself a mocha. So to my beautiful Hello Gorgeous mug, I added a bit of cacao and then simply put my mug on my Nespresso machine, and I used the Melozio pod for this to create my mocha. Okay, so I honestly never sweeten my coffee in the morning, but I felt like this mocha really needed some maple syrup to make a huge difference, and it really did. It was the most delicious drink I've had in a really long time. Okay, I have a question for all of you. Am I the only one on this planet Earth that is extremely obsessed with avocado toast? Because I literally want it all day, every day. So anyways, this morning I decided to make myself a very loaded avocado toast for breakfast because I was starving as usual. So I chopped up a few tomatoes and then I simply seasoned some eggs with black pepper, salt, and garlic powder. I don't like my eggs bland, so I made sure to season these very, very well. Then I simply started to make my omelet by adding some olive oil onto a heated pan, and I simply just cooked my tomato pieces with the spinach and then added my eggs on top and just tried to mix it as much as I can on the pan so that my eggs would remain soft as they were cooking. I decided to keep my avocado paste pretty simple this morning, so I just seasoned it with some black pepper and some salt. I toasted up some of my favorite rye bread by Stone Mill, and then I simply just added my avocado paste on top of both slices. And I tried to kind of evenly distribute my paste because this never works for me, but I always have uneven avocado amounts and it really bothers me. I don't know if it's OCD, but it just really bothers me. And now for the good part. I honestly loaded up my avocado toast quite a bit because I was super hungry and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't starving that morning. So I definitely packed quite a bit of that omelet on my avocado toast, not gonna lie. Then I simply seasoned everything with some cayenne pepper because I wanted a little tiny dash of spice. And that was it for breakfast. Absolutely delicious. Later that day, I was kind of hungry for a snack and I really wanted some kombucha. So I poured myself a little glass of my favorite Synergy kombucha. This is golden pineapple. I love all of Synergy's kombucha flavors. They're absolutely amazing, but one of my favorites is golden pineapple. And of course, because I had a serious sweet tooth that day, I decided to have 3 homemade coconut cookies. I was craving simplicity for dinner that night because it was a Sunday night and I just needed something quick and filling and nutritious to eat. So I decided to kind of pull out some old pumpkin puree that I had in my freezer from back in the fall, and I decided to make some pumpkin soup. So in a pot, I just simply heated up some leek with some olive oil, and I threw all of my pumpkin puree containers into the same pot and kind of just let everything melt until it turned into somewhat of a soup consistency. I then seasoned my pumpkin soup with some salt, some black pepper, some garlic powder, ginger powder, and lastly, cinnamon. I really do find that cinnamon goes really well with pumpkin soup. Pumpkin things in general, I find that cinnamon goes well with. I know that I've made pumpkin muffins before, and adding cinnamon to that was just amazing. So I figured I would add a little dash of cinnamon in this soup as well, and it turned out really good. I then simply added some boiling water into the pot and let everything come to a boil. After about 15 to 20 minutes-ish of allowing my soup to boil, I simply decided to add a can of coconut milk. I find that coconut milk just makes any kind of soup super creamy and just coconutty, and it adds so much flavor. So I did not want to miss out on this coconut milk. I also feel that coconut milk goes really well with butternut squash soup, so I will definitely be making that at some point. As a little side to our pumpkin soup, I decided I wanted something a little crunchy and like soft at the same time, so I decided to make some really delicious air-fried tofu. So I chose to use extra firm tofu for this particular recipe simply because I didn't want a soggy tofu, and I also didn't want a tofu that breaks easily. I wanted a very firm tofu that would crisp up really nicely in my air fryer, and I simply pressed it for about half an hour to get all of its moisture out before actually chopping it up into cubes. I then decided to add lots of soy sauce to my tofu. I think I actually added a little more than I should have, but it was delicious, so I can't complain. I then seasoned it with some garlic powder and some ginger powder. And last but not least, black pepper. I then just gave everything a good mix and just made sure that all of my pieces of tofu were well coated in all of the sauciness and the deliciousness. My secret to an extremely crispy tofu is to make sure that you're not overpacking your air fryer. When you're actually air frying your tofu, you want to make sure you give all of the individual pieces of tofu enough space to air fry properly and become nice and crispy. So I decided to throw my tofu in my air fryer for about 10 minutes to start off, but then I realized after the first like 7-ish minutes that it actually needed a bit more time because I didn't quite like how crispy it was. So I decided to actually increase the time by an additional 5 minutes. So in total, it took about 15 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit in my air fryer for the tofu to become nice and crispy. And that was it for Sunday night's dinner. Super simple, really easy to make. Didn't take very much time, honestly. And we decided to also toast up some sourdough bread to go with the pumpkin soup. And as usual, I ended my night with a nice warm cup of tea. This time I decided on chai tea because I was feeling a little bit of extra spice. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!